When I think of how I've responded in times where people have asked me a question, I think a lot of times it depends on how the question is often asked. And there are times where people will come up to me and they will see me and they, instead of asking a question, they will interrogate me based on some misinformation that they've heard. And my reactions are immediately I go into a defensive mode where I have to, um, I get angry about the accusation, or I get to where if it's something that about myself that I haven't heard or I know I didn't do, I wonder where the information came from. I wonder, who brought this idea to their mind, or why it always feels like someone is accusing me of something and I don't understand. And there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety. At times, physically, I can feel like I'm getting really hot in my chest. Like I don't know if I'm supposed to fight. I don't know. My response gets really uneasy. I get nervous. I get anxious. I feel like part of my personality has been brought into question. And I think a lot of times, as we go into interviewing clients in our social work settings, I think we do the same thing. I think we will look at a client's file and we will see a couple of red flags, and it will create in us, instead of an open interview, we start asking them about these very personal issues. And I think in social work, it's important for us to ask questions that put the client at ease. I know in my profession as an employment specialist, I often get individuals who don't have a very good track record with jobs, and I find it very necessary that I overlook their past troubles with the workforce, and instead I try and ask a question that's open about how they felt about a work experience and why or why not it was positive, or maybe it wasn't very positive, as opposed to us just making assumptions about what an individual is like. I know that when questions are often approached and asked to me, if it's a question that's generally asking about my welfare, I can become very transparent. However, if it's a question that's not really a question and it's more of an insinuation of an accusation, I get very short and brief with my answers. I do not feel welcomed into the conversation. I get mad, and those of you who have known me throughout the coursework here at UK, I tend to use humor as a way of deflecting from answering tough questions. I think initially, as social workers, to get to know a client, I think we need to start with some very easy questions to get that rapport before we dig deeper. I know that in social work, a lot of us are problem solvers, and we want to get deep with um, resolving an issue that we see in a client. But I think a lot of times we need to establish rapport by asking questions that don't put the client on the defensive, because I know how I am when somebody asks me a very heavy question and they ask it in such a way where it's more of an assumption about my behavior rather than general interest. I tend to get really quick with my answers, really sarcastic, and look for a way out of the conversation rather than looking for a way to get involved.